He said it was finished before the room stopped spinning. His voice was calm, flat, almost bored, as if he were reading a receipt. The twins lay nearby, tiny chests rising and falling, unaware that their family had just been torn in half. Nurses stood frozen, hands paused mid-task, eyes flicking between the man and the woman in the bed. Mara did not look at him. She stared at the ceiling, where faint cracks spread like silent roads. Her body ached. Her head swam, but her heart did something unexpected. It went still. Mara Hale did not cry. Not then. Not when he slid the papers onto the table beside her hospital bed. Not when he said he was not ready for this life. Not when he avoided looking at the twins as if they were strangers. Her skin was pale, her lips dry, her hands empty, yet something solid settled deep inside her chest. The smell of antiseptic hung heavy in the air, mixing with the warmth of new life and the chill of betrayal. Anyone watching would have thought she was broken. They would have been wrong. She had learned silence long before this moment. Silence had followed her through childhood in a coastal town where the air smelled of salt and metal. Her father came home exhausted, her mother stitched late into the night. And words were used carefully because there were never enough of them. Mara learned to read rooms, to sense storms before they arrived, to stay quiet when noise would only cause harm. Strength, she learned early, did not always announce itself. Sometimes it waited. By 20, she wore scrubs instead of dreams. She worked as a trauma nurse in a military hospital where nights blurred together and alarms never felt distant. The halls were cold, the lights unforgiving, the faces unforgettable. She held hands slick with sweat and fear, whispered comfort to those who would never walk again, and learned the weight of final breaths. Once a young soldier asked if he would see the ocean again. She lied softly, and he smiled anyway. That smile stayed with her longer than any scream. That night, after the room went quiet, Mara sat alone and pressed her forehead to a cold metal shelf. She breathed until the ache in her chest dulled into something manageable. Loss taught her something simple and cruel. Life could turn in seconds, and dignity mattered most when everything else was gone. She carried that lesson forward, folded neatly inside her, never knowing when she would need it again. It became part of her posture, her patience, her calm. Daniel entered her life like a promise. He was confident, admired, certain of his direction. He liked how she listened, how she never interrupted, how she seemed steady no matter what. At first, he called it grace. Over time, he called it compliance. He spoke over her in public, decided things without asking, and smiled as if that settled everything. When she became pregnant, he celebrated loudly. When he learned it was twins, his joy thinned into concern. He did not hide well. Still, Mara endured. She always had. She told herself, love bent under pressure, and that patience could carry them through. But when the twins arrived, so did the truth. 2 weeks after the birth, Daniel left the divorce papers on the kitchen table beside cold coffee and unpaid bills. He asked her to sign quickly, said it would be easier that way. He did not ask how she was healing. He did not ask how the baby slept. She signed without a word. People watched her after that. Neighbors whispered. Friends offered pity wrapped in advice. Some said she should fight. Others said she should beg. Mara moved into a small rental, where the paint peeled and the floors creaked at night. She worked night shifts again, rocking the twins between feedings, humming low songs she barely remembered learning. Exhaustion lived in her bones, but her resolve grew stronger with every quiet dawn. Silence was still her shield. What no one knew was that, while Mara fed her children in the dark, a letter crossed the ocean. It arrived in a thick envelope with careful handwriting and a stamp from far away. Inside were documents that smelled of age and distance. Her grandmother, a woman she barely knew, had died. A woman who built something vast and quiet, who trusted blood more than banks. The estate was real. The numbers were real. $10 billion spread across industries that touched the world. Mara read the letter at the small kitchen table while the twins slept nearby. She read it again, slower this time. Her hands did not shake. Her breathing did not change. She folded the papers and placed them beneath her medical books as if they were something fragile. Money did not excite her. Power did not tempt her. Responsibility, however, felt familiar. Silence, once again, was her choice. Daniel found out weeks later. The news reached him through laughter that turned into disbelief and then panic. He drove to her place the next day, regret already practiced on his face. He spoke of mistakes, of family, of what was best for the children. He spoke as if the past could be erased by timing. Mara listened, holding the twins against her chest, feeling their warmth anchor her. When he finished, she told him the divorce was final. Then she closed the door. The conflict grew louder without her participation. Lawyers appeared. Messages piled up. Daniel tried to move faster than the truth, assuming noise would win. Mara responded with patience. She met her legal team in a quiet office filled with light and living plants. She asked precise questions and signed what mattered. She requested privacy and nothing more. While others chased attention, she returned to work, steady and unseen. At the hospital, patients knew her hands were calm and her presence grounding. One elderly man told her she carried the stillness of someone who had survived storms without becoming cruel. That night, as she walked past a wall of names honoring fallen medics, she touched the plaque and felt the old promise rise again. Dignity mattered. It always had. She was ready. The court day arrived heavy with expectation. Daniel entered smiling, greeting cameras, certain the world would lean his way. Mara arrived quietly, carrying a small folder, her posture relaxed. She did not meet his eyes. When he spoke, his voice filled the room. When she stood, the room listened. Documents spoke where she did not. Dates aligned. Truth settled like dust finally undisturbed. The ruling was swift. Custody remained with Mara, claims dissolved. Daniel's confidence drained, replaced by silence he could not escape. Outside, crowds waited for drama. They did not get it. Mara walked past without stopping, sunlight warming her face. Phones lowered. People straightened without knowing why. Respect moved through the space without a word spoken. Mara did not change overnight. She funded hospitals quietly, built housing for nurses, expanded training programs. Her name appeared rarely, always tied to impact, never excess. At home, the twins learned to laugh. The house filled with light. Sometimes, late at night, Mara thought of the woman in the hospital bed who was told she was nothing. She wished she could tell her one thing. Silence is not weakness. It is space. And in that space, strength decides who you become. If this story moved you, share where you were watching from and what it made you feel. Subscribe for more stories that honor quiet strength, unseen battles, and the power of standing firm when the world expects you to break.